Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and I thought it'd be fun to go through my Blu-ray collection and show you just some of the stuff that's in my Blu-ray collection. Today, I thought I'll just go through my DC Comics movie collection. And starting off with one of my favorites since childhood, Superman, with Christopher Reeve. So the first Superman movie, love this movie. Flippin' love this movie. It is corny and hokey as all else, but this is the movie that made me love Superman. I've loved it since I was a kid. And as you can see over here, all four of those original Christopher Reeve Superman movies, two separate DVD box sets with two different boxes. And then I own the Blu-ray copy. So there you go. There you have it. But that's how much I love these movies. I do not like Superman 3 and 4. But, I mean, come on. Classics are classics, right? So I own Superman 3 and 4, and I really have nothing else to say about that, but this is a fantastic movie. Moving right along, so you saw I have the box set, so you know I own Superman 2, which I thought was a great movie in its own right, but the Blu-ray for Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. This is a fantastic version of Superman 2, and apparently there were some problems like on the set of this movie. Like they shot Superman the movie and Superman 2 together, and Richard Donner was directing both, and then apparently problems started when like Marlon Brando, who was playing Jor-El, realized that this was not just for one movie, this was for two movies, and apparently he wanted more money, and so they had to reshoot a whole bunch of stuff for that, which is why when you watch Superman 2, it's not Jor-El, it's Superman's Kryptonian mother in there. And apparently there are other problems and dramas on the set where they got a whole entire different director, and then they took the ending that was supposed to be on Superman 2 and made that the ending of Superman the movie. And so they changed a lot and reshot so much of Superman 2, which I still like Superman 2. It's one of my favorite movies, but this in particular version of Superman 2 is incredible. Like seriously, when I watched it, there are elements that are the same, but I felt like I was watching a different movie. It was really epic to see Marlon Brando still as Jor-El. It was really epic just to see, the plot of this is Superman loses his powers. It's epic to see how he gets his powers back. They just did a lot of really cool things that they had originally planned for Superman 2. A lot of stuff they had originally shot and they didn't string together. And then with the release of Superman Returns in 2006, I guess they thought with the hype, they'll go back and do this. And so that's about the time I got this. And the Richard Donner cut of this is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a good movie. Which brings me right over to the next movie, Superman Returns. Yes, I own it. No, I do not think it's the best movie. It's not the worst movie, but it is not the best movie. I did not like the plot of Superman having an illegitimate kid. That just is not in the realm of his character to do that. And then I guess depending on the version of Superman you watch, he's like biologically incapable of making a child with a human. I mean, we could get into that later. But as you can see, this is a 2-disc special edition, and what I like about this is, so you got the discs, but you got this cool little book that has the whole, like, history of Superman, a lot of his storylines. A lot of people getting mad in Man of Steel that Superman killed Zod, but when you go through this, there's a whole chapter in here about how Superman killed Zod. In the comic books, he killed Zod, and it has stuck with him for the rest of his life. So, like, this was a really cool guide to the character of Superman and his comic book history. And so this ultimate 2-disc set of this movie I thought was really, really cool. And now I can't get the things back in. There we go. So, yeah, not a huge fan of the movie, but I will forever love the airplane scene where he saves everybody on the plane. I thought Ralph was okay as Superman. But, of course, I just can't stand the fact that they're ignoring Superman 3 and 4 and making this the new Superman 3, but those other movies took place in the 70s, and this takes place in the year 2006, but it's somehow following in line with those other movies, but only 5 years later. Like, stuff like that just does not make sense to me. So, I think they made some really weird choices with Superman Returns, but not the worst. Now, I wish I owned the Tim Burton Batman movies, but I don't. I mostly don't because last time I checked, they're on Netflix still, and so it's like, well, I could watch them whenever I want on Netflix, so why am I gonna do that? So the day they're off Netflix, I'll probably go get them. But until then, my Batman collection starts right here with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. Batman and Robin was such an epically bad movie that when this came out, I thought this was like a prequel in that franchise of Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. And with how epically bad Batman and Robin was, I really didn't want to go see the prequel to that franchise. I didn't understand what this was when I was seeing the advertising. At that time, that was before reboots were, a thing, before we rebooted Spider-Man 10 times in 10 years. So, this is before the this is what made reboots popular, right? And so I didn't understand what they were doing with it. And so when I went and saw this, I had zero expectations. And when your expectations are so low and you go into a movie that is genuinely brilliant, I'm telling you, I had tears streaming down my face. This movie was so flippin' good. So flippin' good. So that's my thoughts on Batman Begins. It's just a basic Blu-ray, nothing special. Same thing with this. This isn't really, you know, a special edition of the Blu-ray, but it's an awesome movie. The Dark Knight is my favorite one in the Christopher Nolan series. I was one of the people that thought it was a bad idea to hire Heath Ledger as the Joker when that news was first announced, because the only pictures I had in my head of Heath Ledger were A Knight's Tale and 10 Things I Hate About You, which I didn't hate those movies. I enjoyed them, and I liked Heath Ledger before this movie. I just didn't see him as the Joker. And then when they released that first trailer, I got goosebumps when I saw this movie. Heath Ledger's performance in this was brilliant, and the Joker became the absolute favorite part of this movie for me. So this is, for many reasons, my favorite in that Christopher Nolan franchise. Batman The Dark Knight Rises, probably my least favorite, but I still really, really liked this movie. I thought this was a genuinely good movie. It does have a lot of plot holes in it. It really does. There's a lot of problems if you were really to dissect it and get into it. I mean, come on. Why didn't Bruce just report and be like, hey, I didn't steal all that money. They stole my thumbprint and, you know, all that stuff, and have his money restored to him? How could he be on the other side of the world and get to Gotham super, super fast without the help of, like, say, Superman, and get into a city under siege by a nuclear weapon? I mean, there's just so many things that you just look at this movie and you're like, some of that is ridiculous on the surface. But it is overall a very good movie. I enjoyed The Dark Knight Rises. I thought it was an epic conclusion to the Christopher Nolan franchise, and great cast. Overall, really good story. And then right here we have Green Lantern. I think it's safe to say that overall, as a film, this movie just didn't work. Like, it didn't have a flow. And you know what? I think Ryan Reynolds was fantastic in this movie. I had just read Green Lantern Secret Origins by Jeff Johns before seeing this movie, and I felt like Ryan Reynolds embodied the character of Hal Jordan. I thought he did a fantastic job in the role. I just felt like the movie around him wasn't good. Having just read the Jeff Johns things, it's a short comic book, but you get a lot of his training. You get a lot of the different characters he meets while he's training. You learn a lot about the Green Lantern Corps. You build this relationship between Hal Jordan and Sinestro. You get this conspiracy that's going on behind the death of, I forget the alien's name where Hal Jordan got the ring from. But you get a whole lot more, and it's hard for me to understand why in a movie that's 2 hours long versus a comic book which made into a movie would be maybe an hour long. It's like, how did they skip all this valuable stuff? And had they just put that kind of stuff in there, I feel like this movie would have been epic. Green Lantern to me is just a high quality character. He has such a fascinating story. He has such a fascinating mythology built around him, and I just don't understand why this movie didn't tap into it. And that's my biggest disappointment with it. I didn't think it was, like, horrible. I still enjoy watching it, but it's every time I watch it, I think of all the stuff they could have done and what could have been, and I think for me, that's what hurts with it. Batman Gotham Knight. This is a good one. It's not my favorite, but it's not really like a story. It's a bunch of Batman short stories, and they're pretty good. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. Just not my absolute favorite. Green Lantern Emerald Knights was really, really good. It helps you get into the mythology of the Green Lantern world. It's a bunch of short stories of Green Lantern stuff, so you really get a lot of background with it, and I think it's a really, really enjoyable movie. Justice League Doom. Fantastic animated movie where Batman has all the Justice League's weaknesses and ways to defeat them all in his computer. A villain breaks into his computer and uses this information against the Justice League. Very thoughtful and very interesting movie. I haven't even opened it yet, but I want to. I love these cartoons, the 1940s Superman cartoons. Oh my gosh, these are brilliant. I don't know if you've ever seen these nowadays, but the animation is solid and they're just fun. And then Superman Doomsday, my wife said this animated movie actually made her cry. And I really enjoy. I enjoy the Doomsday storyline, and so I enjoyed what they did with this. And then Superman Batman Public Enemies. But if you look behind me really quick, all 4 seasons of Lois and Clark is right here. All 10 seasons of Smallville. So there we go. Now we're going to get into the DCEU as we have it now. So first, I have this awesome Man of Steel set. I love this movie. This is, to me, a genuinely good movie. The strongest in the DCEU that exists now, but just as a movie by itself, I think it's a really good and really strong movie. I originally, when I got this, I thought this was so cool to have it like this in this box set. Came with a cool plastic magnetic thing you put on the back so you can like display it up on your mantle or something. Except that stupid plastic thing does not stay together and falls apart every time I put this on here because this is just too heavy. And then, as you can see, the door fell right off. And now we have this, which is actually really cool because look at how this thing unfolds. So over here's the 3D. And then right here is just the Blu-ray. And then the special features in the center and the DVDs right here. So it opens up like this and it kind of looks like the ship, which is really, really cool. But I have to hold this see, there it goes. It doesn't really hold the discs in there very well. So this, while visually this is a really cool looking set here, it does not really hold together that practically. So, but it looks cool, and I think that's the important part, but really do enjoy this movie. Next in the modern DCEU, of course I own Batman vs. Superman. If I'm gonna own Superman 3 and 4, the Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, and Superman Returns, you know I'm gonna own Batman vs. Superman in 3D, which I do it, yeah, Man of Steel's in 3D, but the 3D on that one isn't as good. The 3D in this one is much better. I don't like that the extended cut is not 3D. That makes me sad because if I'm watching this movie, I'm not watching the theatrical cut. The theatrical cut does not make much sense to me, but the Ultimate Edition, the extended cut, makes more sense to me. It doesn't fix to me the overall direction that the story goes, but it answers a lot of things and smooths out a lot of the editing, and so, you know, I don't know. I like this way better than Superman Returns. I like this way better than Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern. This is a fun movie that I can still pop in and watch a lot of the action sequences and have a lot of fun with it. You know, I think the story's a little weak and I felt like they rushed really fast to try to get to where Marvel is. But there's still, it's a good movie. It's worth watching. So, Batman vs. Superman. And lastly, Suicide Squad, which I was largely just disappointed in this movie. I didn't hate it. Again, and still like it better than, like, the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. Do I? Anyway, that's too deep of a question to ask for this video. It's an enjoyable movie. It is. It's just not my favorite. Again, it felt rushed. I felt like it suffered from the same thing as Batman vs. Superman, that they're really just trying to rush to get this entire universe built to try to, you know, at least match where Marvel's at, and rushing. I just felt like they're not getting there. But it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I do enjoy it. I haven't watched the 3D version of it yet because, again, the extended cut is in 2D and not 3D, which I think they're missing big opportunities there. I just haven't had the desire to go back and watch the theatrical cut, to watch it in 3D. But at the same time, I don't think the extended cut adds anything to this, so I don't know. There it is. I think I've officially gone through my entire DC Blu-ray and DVD collection. So, what do you think of that collection? What do you own in terms of DC on Blu-ray and DVD? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button and become a Durbanian. And you know, right by the subscribe button, there's that little bell. Click that little bell and be notified the moment I drop new videos. Got a really cool conversation coming up with Cody Leach. He's got a great YouTube channel. Check it out. We're going to talk about the state of the current DCEU, where we think it's at and where we want it to go. And we're both DC fanboys, and we're going to be talking about the current DCEU and our honest thoughts and opinions on it. So hit that little bell and you'll be notified the moment those videos drop. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.